We're going back through time even before human form, right? Before Atlantis and Lemuria, before we even took on this body as humans. What about when we were expressing as planets, or we were expressing as stars? We're all galactic beings. Our human form is our most recent makeup, but we've been expressing ourselves creatively all the way back through time, all the way back to that original point of the womb that birthed all things from the nothingness. So it's about really calibrating and opening those pathways to really be empowered to be all that you are in the body. It's that trinitized energy of family. It's mother and father and the child, or the creation, or God, or whatever you want to call it. And the more we can get into resonance with that and be that grounded walking embodiment of that, we start to elevate not only our timeline, but also the potential impact that we can have on the field around us. Because it's like we're literally getting in harmony with our own truth and our own source. And life in that space is just so much more easeful and graceful and fulfilling. And this is what the ascension for me is all about. And so we're at this point, this huge threshold of ascension and transition of our consciousness. And the veils are so thin, so we're perceiving all of this now. And I'm just in awe of this whole journey. It's such an exciting time to be here, and also such a privilege. And it's not an accident that we're all here. We came here for this.
Katrina Smith is an ascension guide who focuses on multidimensional healing, helping people to align with their highest potential and empowering every soul to reunite with their divine essence and spiritual purpose. So welcome, Katrina. It is so nice to have you join me today. I am so happy that you're able to talk with us.
Oh, thank you, Tara. It's so lovely to be here with you as well today. And I'm really excited to speak on all these beautiful topics and to connect with your audience. It's such an honor. So thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you join us. And I know you're coming to us all the way from New Zealand. So we really appreciate that. One of the hot topics that we talk about right now is spiritual awakening. As we all know, we're going through this ascension process and we're all raising our vibrations. And on that topic, I would like to ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, what was your spiritual journey like? How did you get on this path of spiritual ascension, and what did that journey look like for you?
Well, I mean, I feel like for all of us who gravitate towards spirituality and are asking those bigger questions and are naturally quite empathic and open in terms of sensitivity, we all kind of go through a similar journey. For some of us, there is that real, big event that sort of happens and that jolts us in terms of our understanding of the nature of reality and our position within it, and this big awakening. For me, it was a very sort of sequential and lifelong unfolding. It was almost like stepping stone after stepping stone, and one foot in front of the other. And there were some really clear indicators that I was quite different from the beginning. And again, I think we all kind of feel that when we're spiritually inclined, we don't really fit into this world. And I felt that way. I was really hypersensitive. It was really, I had a beautiful family, like such a beautiful upbringing. And it almost felt like the turmoil that I felt inside, the anxiety that I had, it wasn't matching the reality that I was having. I was having such a beautiful childhood with my siblings, and everything was, just beautiful. I didn't have any reason to feel like that. But with time, I started to uncover that there was just this real sense of feeling that I didn't quite belong. And it was really challenging socially throughout my, schooling years. And it just, it really became quite apparent to me that I was from somewhere else. I felt really, really different. And that deep sense of wanting to know, what is this? What is this reality? And questioning the divine. And, so it was all these kinds of different sort of step-by-step awakening experiences that happened for me. A lot of what accelerated my path was also a lot of my own health conditions that I believe, were all part of this divine unfolding as well. And just really being able to have that openness through my own field and my body. And I was just always asking the bigger questions. I was always so tapped into more of the vastness, and at the same time, also loving to be in the human realm, in the physical realm. There was so much, and still today, of how much I love to be here, to be embodied, to be grounded on this beautiful earth. But at the same time, I was always so open and wanting to learn more and wanting to know more. But it didn't really come from books. It never really came from anywhere outside of me. It was an internal process of unveiling that throughout the years. And so, I've been through journeys with plant medicines and all kinds of things, and everything just sort of layered on top of, itself. And so I just continued to open and come more into that clarity over time. So it was not like a particular singularity event that kind of, woke me up, let's say, but it was really like a gradual journey and unfolding.
Yeah, and I can relate to that as well. For me, it was a step-by-step process. And as I mentioned in other videos, is that for me, it was just like take one step and an awakening would take place. And then I would go back to sleep. And then I would take another step and another awakening. And then I'd go back to sleep. And then sometimes this little sleep period of time would even last for years, where, as I always say, I go back into the 3D matrix. And then there would be moments, as you mentioned, sometimes it's a health issue or a personal crisis or something that just starts making you ask the bigger questions of life. Like, there has to be something more to this. Like, what is the purpose? Why are we here? What is it all about? And when you're young, you don't really get the answers to those questions. You're kind of forced into, a certain way of life, especially if you have a religious upbringing, if your parents kind of brought you to church and you don't really have a choice in the matter. You just have to go along with that. So it can be really hard to break out of those constructs, especially if there are things that you were brought into at an early age as a child. So I am curious, referencing the matrix, because I've seen some of your work and I know you actually talk about something that's really interesting, and I've never heard of this before, which you refer to as the inverted matrix. So I would love to hear if you could share a little bit more with us about that, but also if we can get started with learning about what do you define as the actual matrix before we get into the inverted matrix.
One thing that I find so fascinating, and it's just such a passion of mine, is to actually uncover what the real meaning of words is and are. So we often speak this language, but we don't actually really know the energy behind it or the history behind the words that we use. And I think that this is something that can greatly, bring a lot of discernment to our path when we can actually start to really decipher what the words really mean of what we're using. So a beautiful sister of mine actually inspired this. She was looking up a lot of words, and I started to sort of do my own investigation, and I came across the word of the matrix. And I couldn't believe what it actually meant when I looked up the etymology. So any person can do this. They can go online, type in the matrix, okay, and the etymology comes from the word mother, and it comes from the word uterus and womb. So the true matrix, okay, the organic living matrix, is actually the mother consciousness. And so this is the matrix of creation of which we are all held within, in which we are all supported and nourished, and we're perpetually supplied, just like an infant in the womb, of everything we could ever need. And from that space, we feel eternally safe, we feel secure, and it holds all the conditions for us to thrive. So that's what the true matrix is of the mother energy. Okay, the inverted matrix is the opposite. So what I mean by that, it's an inverted womb. Okay, so it's an inversion of creation energy. So instead of giving us life and supporting us to thrive, it actually extracts energy. It depletes us. And when we're held within that realm, like we are in this inverted matrix with all its systems, banking systems, food production systems, education, healthcare, which I came from, we start to see that these systems are actually pulling on our life force and, separating us from the mother consciousness. And, in terms of healing that, we have to come back into right relationship with the mother. And that has been so suppressed on this planet for so many thousands of years in this patriarchal, this patriarchal dominion that has been controlling and, implementing all these systems and structures that don't actually support our greatest creative expression, and also doesn't support innocence on any level. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting when you start to see, okay, because we all think about the movie when we think of the Matrix. And
Right.
I mean, that was a very accurate depiction, of
Mhm.
what's really happening energetically. But I feel like they
Mhm.
should have called it the inverted matrix
Yeah.
to be more
That
clear.
would have been a good name. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I know we're
Mm,
at a time where we're stepping back more into the divine feminine. I think the divine feminine has been suppressed quite a bit in recent times. But also, I've been hearing people saying, well, we're not trying to swing the pendulum all the way back, right? We're not trying to go from,
mm,
more predominantly masculine into just feminine. We really want to bring it back to a neutral state so that we
mm.
can actually bring the divine and the masculine together. Can you share a little bit about that and how that would benefit us as a society? Because we are coming from a place of being in a very masculine energy right now, and we are trying to embrace more of the divine feminine, but we don't want to overcorrect either. So,
Yes.
what does that look like for us?
Yeah, and it's really profound that you spoke into that, because I think when we're working in any extreme level of polarity, we're always going to be in disharmony. So we do need to come back to that 0 point neutral space. And that is really beyond gender. It's really beyond the feminine or the masculine. It's the unification, or the marriage, or the unity of both of those polarities. And that's how our light body design is anyway. It's an electromagnetic resonance and field of energy. So we, in order to come into balance with our own being, our bodies, our emotions, our everything in terms of being in the higher timeline, we ourselves have to also come into energetic harmony. And that is really the blueprint of our whole divine design. So yes, I feel that if we swing the pendulum from, heavy-handed patriarchy to the matriarchy, where again, we're not learning the lessons of the past. And that pendulum has been swinging back and forwards for so many thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. And we're being given this opportunity of divine union, that unified oneness within ourselves as individuals, as a collective humanity, as a planetary body. And it's this remembrance of who we truly are. But that requires us to hold such reverence for both of those aspects within ourselves. It requires a lot of healing in terms of our relationship with our mother and father in this earth plane, our genetic line, our maternal and paternal genetics. It's so multi-layered and multi-dimensional, but I feel like this is the opportunity we're being given as an ascending collective. And for sure, if you've been living in a patriarchy for tens of thousands of years, there's going to be a lot of trauma and build-up that's occurred, and belief systems, resentment, a lot of energies that um, just start to emerge. And so we've got to work through dismantling all of those aspects of ourselves so we can really get clear on who we fundamentally are as creation, and the source energy that animates us, that is beyond gender, that is beyond polarity. It's that trinitized energy of family. It's mother and father and the child, or the creation, or God, or whatever you want to call it. And the more we can get into resonance with that and be that grounded walking embodiment of that, we start to elevate not only our timeline, but also the potential impact that we can have on the field around us. Because it's like we're literally getting in harmony with our own truth and our own source. And life in that space is just so much more easeful and graceful and fulfilling. And this is what the ascension for me is all about. And it requires us to hold such compassion for everything that's happened in the past, but also the awareness to not repeat the same timelines, because these are the lower timelines. We no longer need to reinforce that any longer, because we have that cellular memory. We can sort of sense that we've been here before. Let's not do the same thing again. And so we're at this point, this huge threshold of ascension and transition of our consciousness. And the veils are so thin, so we're perceiving all of this now. And I'm just in awe of this whole journey. It's such an exciting time to be here, and also such a privilege. And it's not an accident that we're all here. We came here for this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you just mentioned timelines there a moment ago, and I would love to get more into that with you. But first, I wanted to jump back to something that I know that you work on with your clients is mitochondrial DNA healing and aligning that DNA. And when I first heard of this, I was fascinated because I'm wondering, is this the same as sort of healing the ancestral DNA that we have within us? So if we have any trauma associated with our ancestral DNA, is this the type of healing that we would do to not only uncover that, but also work through it for the benefit of ourselves, but also our lineage? Is that the same thing that we're talking about?
It's distinctly different, but in terms of the intention behind it, it's very similar, because your DNA is your internal access. It's your cellular memory and, the spiraling encoded information, not just for your genetic makeup and how you look as a soul, as a human being, but it's obviously all of those memory records, all the traits, all of the experiences, both positive and negative, let's say, of your predecessors. And so those inheritances come through the double helix. And mitochondrial DNA is a little bit different. And this is because we only receive our mitochondrial DNA from our mother. So that then becomes an internal access pathway to the maternal lineage back through time. Okay, so it's a little bit different because our DNA is both the nuclear genetics of both of our parents, but the mitochondria is a transmission that comes through us like a living memory and a cache or archive of information to do with our creator origins, the capacity to birth, to rebirth yourself, to birth timelines, to be a creative, innovative individual, which is our divine blueprint and our ultimate power. That transmission comes through the mother, and it is a unbreakable bonding to the truth of our soul back through time. And so that comes from our mother, and it's passed to us, and it comes to our mother from her mother. And so it goes all the way back through time, back to the original point of creation. And it's really the way that I started to see it in terms of, why is creation doing this? Why are we preserving this mother God technology within our bodies? Why is that so important? Because it gives us this unbreakable, like incorruptible connection. It's like the cosmic weaver, braiding us into the fabric of creation, so that no matter what happens in terms of, disempowerment or the fallen systems and structures, the amnesic wipeout that we go through, we still have that opportunity and that open potential to be able to retrieve those memories, to be able to access that soul blueprint, and to be able to birth ourselves out of any lower timelines or any versions of ourselves that are not really the truth of our soul. And so that's handed down genetically from our mother. And all of us have mitochondria, men and women, and every child, every person on this earth came through a womb, came through their mother's body. And so it's a gift of creation, and that we have these living memories active within us. It's just requiring us to move inward, to be able to access that, to have reverence for the importance and the sacredness of that within our light bodies, within our genetics. And have the curiosity and the love to be able to move inward, to stop looking outside of you for those answers and to realize that everything is available within you, right? We contain the whole in every cell. And I think that more and more people are starting to tap into that immense power and potential that they hold within their own being. There is really nothing that we need. And that's what that language of light is that comes through the mother's genetics. It's reaffirming that and reassuring us that all we need is within us and the source is right here.
Yeah. And, as you're saying this, I'm wondering, do you have any examples of people that you've worked with? What does that look like for the healing process? Is that something where we have to dig deep into our ancestral line, or is it more along the lines of a hypnosis or meditation? Do we have to uncover subconscious beliefs that we have? What does the process look like for that? And do you have any examples of working with the client that may have overcome some major issues in life by working through this process with you?
So when we are setting our intention to clear the mitochondria, or to allow it to blossom and be all that it is as our original blueprint, we're recognizing that there is an immense amount of separation trauma that we've been through. There's an immense depth of amnesia that has impacted our consciousness and our capacity to see beyond the veil, to have those perceptions and psychic markers turned on. And so when we're going into a healing, yes, there is a big ancestral component in terms of, bringing light, bringing healing energy, just bringing that beautiful essence of that divine radiance and being able to release, to heal and resolve any of those dense memory records that are not really enabling the mitochondria to fully shine, to really allow us to shine of our own source. There's a compound in mitochondria called ATP, and this is actually what's responsible for our soul animation through the body. It enables us to shine of our own source, essentially. So, we look to the sun and the solar system and, we feel the bright, warm energy coming to us. But we have to realize that we have that sun, that central sun inside of us. We generate our own light. And so the mitochondria is responsible for that. It enables us to be illuminated. Okay. And what do I mean by illuminated? I mean your soul in the body, your soul expressing, accreting light, being that full animation of your spiritual light presence in the physical, in the cellular structures. That's the gateway of the mitochondria that enables you to do that. And this is the process of ascension. It's not about going into transcendental meditation and staying up in the ethereal realms. It's about birthing those exalted states of creative energy, of loving kindness, of that, full cosmic empowerment through your body, and walking with that as a legacy that you radiate to all beings. So when we go into a process of healing, it's really about unraveling the distortions, unraveling any of those distressing memories or blockages or seals or anything that's not really enabling that mitochondria to speak that language through your body and through your cells. And so really opening the gateways for that transmission to come through completely organically and in its full potential. So there is a big ancestral piece in terms of your mother's lineage and just the things that may have gone on, throughout your matriarchal generations. But it's even more vast than that, because we're going back through time even before human form, right? Before Atlantis and Lemuria, before we even took on this body as humans. What about when we were expressing as planets, or we were expressing as stars? We're all galactic beings. Our human form is our most recent makeup, but we've been expressing ourselves creatively all the way back through time, all the way back to that original point of the womb that birthed all things from the nothingness. So it's about really calibrating and opening those pathways to really being empowered to be all that you are in the body. And that directly links in with timelines. Because if we're not shining of our own source, we're going to feel dim, we're going to feel darkened, we're going to feel confused, we're not really going to know what our purpose is. And we're all here to remember. It's a gnosis. It's about turning on those markers and letting go of that, the easy way of sort of trying to learn it from outside of you, looking to the outside world for validation. So it's about bringing the client inward. And that may not be their most natural or the way that they're used to doing things. So it's quite, different for a lot of people. And so much has come through in terms of genetic conditioning, things that have happened, crisis and trauma, oppression, especially to that mother energy. This has been huge on this earth. And, this is just what's coming through now. Like we're starting to realize, wow, the mother energy has been so suppressed. And if the mother energy is suppressed, our mitochondria are not functioning because that trauma has been inherited and we're expressing that through our bodies. So it's so multidimensional, but it's also possible for anyone. And just as we've been learning about the importance of DNA, our spiritual DNA, I believe that mitochondria is the next stage in terms of coming back into that unified oneness and our true empowerment.
Absolutely. And I know you reference a quote by Zach Bush that says a cubic centimeter of mitochondria that makes up our human form releases 10,000 times more light than the surface of the sun. When I read that, I was like, wow. I mean, if you ever had a moment that you didn't think you were special, you just need to read that quote again because that shows us how special we really are. So I loved that you shared that. I think you have it on your website, and I just loved it. I thought it was such a profound statement. And so that shows people how important the light within us is, and to share that light and to really, embrace it and embody it, right? And that's part of what this whole ascension process is for us, is to step more into our authentic selves and really try to break free from that inverted matrix, as you called it, and hopefully be able to really manifest the things for ourselves that are truly in our nature, and that we have the ability to do so and be aware of that and recognize that. And you just mentioned timelines again, and I love talking about timelines because I'm fascinated by these. And one of the things that I'm always fascinated by is quantum leaping into a timeline, finding the timeline that you want to really have your reality, live out that reality and move into that timeline for yourself. And that's something that people don't realize is an option. You do have the option to recognize a different timeline than you're on and make a shift into that timeline. Can you talk with us a little bit more about timelines and how that works for us?
Yeah, of course. Well, we're existing in a reality where there are many different components of our soul or oversoul that exist in parallel. So it's like when you're, selecting a television program to watch, you recognize all the other programs are still there. They're still running, but you're just dialing your frequency to a certain channel or a certain station. So with timelines, it's about realizing that in any moment through that 0 point connection, we have access to all that we are, all spectrums of possibilities, just like the artist palette and all of the colors, all of the different vibrational tones. We get to dial not only our intention, but our genetics, our beingness into those frequencies, which then unveil a new version of us. And I think for a lot of people, they're going through a process of dismantling of old timelines right now. So many different components of their reality, from their job or their relationship, different kinds of things are dismantling and being decomposed, right? And we may have put a lot of energy into composing it and creating that kind of reality, but we're at this point in the journey, that threshold where we're seeing with a different perspective and we're feeling with those sensitivities and markers that have come online, that perhaps this is not really my full potential. And so it requires an internal shift in our own inner frequency state to simply dial in to that reality. We don't need to worry about changing what's out there in terms of the physical manifestation. Everything's holographic. So if we want to change the conditions of the reality, we need to change our conditions within us, our frequency state, and to be consistent with that frequency so that that reality can then be projected through the light projector of our own DNA. And so then we can live out that experience. Again, remembering we're animating the body. It's like a movie. Life is like a movie. Okay, but we're the director of the movie. We don't have to be stuck in the density of being in it as the character. We get to move into the spacious witnessing, and we get to be the creative conductor and composer of this incredible masterpiece of our life. You know, the best movie you could ever possibly imagine. But it requires, again, a shift within ourselves. We can't wait for something on the outside to happen. But the thing that I would say is happening sort of in the collective and in the cosmological shifts is there are a lot of changes that are happening in terms of the amount of light that is streaming through our galaxy to our planet. So things are quickening, and it's like we're coming into the higher destiny faster than ever before. So we're reaching that divine ultimate destiny. And so this process of quantum leaping or shifting trajectories, I think this is so common for all of us. We have to come into that knowing of what we want to bring forward and what truly represents our values, who we really are as a soul, and just let go of everything else. And it requires such an immense amount of trust in not only yourself, but that divine source that's guiding you from within, illuminating the path ahead. And we don't need to worry. Everything's always working out for us. And for sure, we may need to grieve the things that are dismantling, like maybe the relationship or the job. There may be a grieving process to release that. But then we open up into the spaciousness of everything that can start to take shape, the new version of us. And that is just so exciting as we keep refining ourselves, we keep polishing the crystal that we are, so we keep shining brighter of our own source. And I think we need to simplify things. What is it that we have to do to quantum leap? Well, we need to take action on the things that light us up. That is our joy, our passion, the things that make us want to get out of bed in the morning because we're so excited to do that and, you know, apply our life force to those things in that direction. And that really brings us into harmony with our own spirit. And from there, physical manifestation just takes care of itself. We don't need to control reality.
Yeah. Wow. There's so many great things that you just said there. And I think a lot of people can relate to what you were just saying about us changing in our lives right now. I know so many people that have taken a new turn in their life and are on a new path. Either they're leaving behind an old job, a career, a relationship, and they're not really sure why. And, you know, personally, I think it has to do with the ascension. I think there's a lot of, as you mentioned, light coming into the planet right now and into our bodies. And that is raising our consciousness, our frequency, so that we are becoming more aware of, you know, who we are as people, as humans, who we are on this planet, why we're here, and really stepping into our authenticity to be our true selves. And so sometimes people don't know why that's happening, and it can be a little bit scary for people. They don't know, you know, there's the unknown is ahead of them. They don't know what that looks like. And, you know, one of the things that I know you've talked about in some of your videos, and I know some people are affected by this, is something that you call shadow bodies. And I would love if you could share with us, what are shadow bodies and how do they affect us? And if somebody feels like they have one, what can they do about that? How can they rid themselves and clear themselves of these shadow bodies?
So shadow bodies are just aspects of our consciousness that are held in the dark. They're the parts of us that we've repressed or we've denied. And, yet they still exist. They're active somewhere within our consciousness field. And so they tend to express as different kinds of triggers. If we've got a shadow body, usually there's going to be a trigger point that keeps recurring in our lives, or we have knee-jerk reactions, or we might be struggling from a health condition. It's a distortion of energy that is not really in harmony with love. It's not in harmony with our soul. Okay, our soul is love. So if there is, a deep seated fear or anguish or any kind of frequency that's out of balance, but that's been, for whatever reason, we haven't felt ready to face it, it sort of lurks in the shadows. And we lose touch with it. Like we don't have the awareness that it's necessarily there. But then it will keep expressing, because it's like the part of us that's been concealed is screaming out for our attention, to look it in the eye and to have enough compassion to be able to bring love into those spaces. It, again, like bringing the illumination into the parts of us that feel frozen or stuck, or these aspects of our trauma and pain that are responsible for all our coping mechanisms, our addictions, our distractions, our abusive relationships, all the things that keep recycling and going around and around and around. This is what really comes from that basis of those shadow bodies. And so again, because we're in an ascension timeline right now where everything's accelerated, we're literally in the photon belt, we're getting blanketed with light. So okay, when light shines through a clear crystal, it's going to shine beautiful refraction patterns of colors and geometries. But when light shines through a vessel that has deposits of incoherent energy or painful memories, that is what's going to be projected as our reality. So we're going to have to live it out. So it's going to come to the surface. And so this is the time where we really need to be so gentle with ourselves, to take our emotions as sacred and, really give value to whatever is coming up, no matter whether that's uncomfortable. This is, again, it's like the comfort zone that we've created for ourselves. It can be okay for a short time, but it doesn't really allow us to grow and expand. And so when we have uncomfortable feelings, such as that which come from these shadow bodies, these parts of our traumas that maybe weren't resolved fully, okay, that they weren't fully integrated for whatever reason, that is what's coming forward, so that we can bring this light of illumination, to bring, not to push it away or try to fix it. It's about bringing love and a loving witnessing to that part of us that has felt split or in stasis or blocking us. And this is integration. Okay, there's nothing we need to fix about ourselves. All we need to do is witness with compassion whatever is there within us, okay, and bring the light of love, that illumination, into those spaces, so that the energy can start to flow once again, so that we can clear that density and create the space for the soul, for the true frequency of you as spirit to come and occupy all that you are, mentally, physically, emotionally, every cell of your body. And so that's what I feel a shadow body is. It's just something that's held in the dark. And for so many of us on earth right now, all of that is coming forward. But we only get what we can handle at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of things are coming up. It's because you do have the capacity to be able to address those things. But it's also really simple. But I find in, the work that I do, I find that if the client doesn't really feel enough love, if they don't really feel safe enough, they won't even attempt to go to look those aspects of themselves in the eye. They will not even brush the surface of those shadow energies. We must establish the safety. We must be held in a field of love. We must know that our essence is love, to be able to start to traverse those deeper domains of our unconscious selves. So I hope that makes sense. It's a bit of a challenging one
No,
to
it
explain.
Yeah, no, it does. You did a great job explaining that. And the way I always think about it too is that, we are pure conscious energy, pure love, pure conscious energy when we come into this body, into this planet. And then as we go through our life, we adopt belief systems from people around us, whether that's friends, family, school, and we just layer those belief systems on top of that pure conscious energy. But we have to then get back to the root of who we really are as that pure conscious energy, which means we have to look at each layer, each of those belief systems, and dig in and understand why we feel that way, why we believe that. Because a lot of these beliefs are not true about ourselves. They're lies that we tell ourselves, but it's because we've adopted them over time. And what's so interesting is I've had 3 friends come to me in the last week with relationship issues. And it's sometimes hard to talk with people who are not prepared to look at those things. They just want to come and complain about the situation they're in, not actually take a deep look at it. So when you have somebody like that in your life, how do you encounter that person? Because obviously we want to meet them with love and kindness with the situation they're in, right? But also everyone's on a different path. So not everyone is ready to take, as you mentioned there, take a look at what their subconscious behavior patterns are, what those belief systems are for themselves. So how can we engage with those people, do the best we can to send them love, loving energy, and maybe try to help them? But where do we draw that line with somebody who just isn't willing to really take a look at that? What would you recommend for somebody like that?
We, as a friend or as a support person for a client or whatever the dynamic is.
I would say as a friend.
Okay, so as a friend, all that you can truly do in the purity of your heart and that part of you that wants so much to help, for them to see with clarity and see the potential of a different way to move forward or a different timeline, all we can really do is offer a vibration, a resonance to them. We can emanate that energy. We can be the embodiment. We can be the role model of that energy, and in the hope that that will impact them in some way, remembering that it's really not about the words that we speak. It's really more about the language of frequency. Okay, and so I think the most impactful and powerful thing you can do, again, without attaching to how it's going to play out, right, is to just offer that loving compassion, offer the insights that you have with love, everything infused with the frequency of love, and radiate that as an offering, this beautiful devotional offering to someone that you love and care deeply about. But we also have to let go of the attachment, because that person may be inspired by that frequency offering. They may feel the resonance of your embodiment and your message and everything that you're displaying, but they may choose to shut it down. They may not be ready to receive that transmission. Okay. And so at the end of the day, we can't walk the path for them. We can't hold their hand and try to accelerate their timeline, even if they're suffering, and we can see that, even if there is so much turbulence in their life. We can't take away that journey for them or make it easier for them. We can only offer our vibration, and to see what then happens and what takes shape. So it's such a delicate process for, I think, any sort of awakening individual, especially in terms of their family, in terms of their friendships. Sometimes we can be so committed in a beautiful way, but like sometimes we get over attached with trying to, of what we can see would be the better outcome for them. Okay. But it's not under our jurisdiction. We don't get to control that. And even through the pain and suffering that they may be going through, that you wish for them that they weren't, there's immense value in that for them as well. And that's all part of their own divine destiny, to help them to uncover who they really are. So everything's always an offering. But if we go at it in terms of, say someone who's able to see quite clearly that, someone's relationship's really toxic and they want to get them out of it, again, it's like we can only say so much, right? We can't force anyone to take that quantum leap. They have to choose it for themselves. And in doing so comes that empowerment and sovereignty of being able to have the vision and the faith to take a leap, to take that next timeline. And it can be hard. It can be really hard. We really want to prevent suffering. We don't want unnecessary hurt on this earth. But we also need to step back from that polarity perspective of, okay, this is good or this is bad. And we also just need to allow things to play out in the space of neutrality, but also compassion. So I find even with clients, I can offer a very potent energetic resonance or vibrational field and container. But if that client is not able to receive that for whatever reason, even, if we work through the blockages or the armoring or whatever patterning they have, there still may be, some people that just can't receive it. And that's also okay. They'll be ready when they're ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone has their lessons, and we can't take those lessons away from everyone, even as much as we want to prevent the suffering, as you said. And, there's definitely karma at play as well. So sometimes people have a karmic, need to play out some of these situations they're in. So as you mentioned, just offering that vibration is the most loving thing we can do in that moment, and they can accept it if that's something that they are inclined to do, but we can't force that on anybody. So I think that's a great reminder for people about how to support their friends and family and loved ones when they're going through this ascension process as well. Because like you said, a lot of things are coming to the surface right now because we are raising our frequency. And sometimes the bad comes out before the good, right? So we have to clear a lot of those negative beliefs in order to get to the good stuff. So we have to be patient during this time with people as well.
In terms of those traumas and those shadows and those, unconscious patterns that keep playing out, they're held within our cellular structures within the DNA. And so they create distortion patterns. And because of this intensification of light that's streaming through into this planet, into our bodies, it's going to cast those images. It's going to bring all of those distortion patterns to the surface. We may feel a lot heavier before we feel lighter because we've got to work through the forgiveness, the healing, the purification, the purging and the detox of all these disharmonious structures or, memories of pain and suffering or, our negative beliefs, all the things that have created little scars to our soul. It's about healing those wounds so that we can come back into the full embodiment of who we really are and then really access just the depth of all of our gifts and mastery and full potential as a cosmic creator being, as God Goddess. We are all that in these bodies. It's not separate from the body. But I think that's something that's really important to speak to, is that for a lot of us, it does tend to feel a lot worse before it feels better. And that's not the universe punishing us. It's just everything's being revealed. It's the time of revelation and disclosure, not just in the world at large, but within ourselves. And so then we get all the opportunities, all the synchronicities, all those perfect trigger points to just bring everything out and lay it all on the table. But that may be a difficult emotional process. It may be something really painful that we need to work through. It may even be a resurgence of a health condition. Where is this coming from? It's resurfaced again, or it's come out of nowhere. These are the kinds of things, ascension symptoms, that we have to move through to burn off all of these layers and to be able to accrete more and more consciousness energy, which is love. So it's not that anything's going wrong if you're not feeling really well all the time.
Right.
Right. And even if you've been doing this process for years, you're still going to go through these waves of contraction and expansion. It's just, the natural course of reality at this point.
Absolutely. And I think it's worth mentioning again, just as you were saying that, one thing people should be aware of is that it does, or it can, manifest physically. A lot of these emotional challenges that we face or issues that we have, we find that they'll come up as issues with the body, whether it's a chronic illness or maybe it's a specific pain, maybe joint pain or what have you. We have to look a little more deeply into the physical ailments that we have to understand where those are actually coming from. And what's so interesting, I find, about energy is that if you do the work and you dig in on some of these belief patterns that you have and you find the origin of that pain, guess what? That pain just goes like that. All of a sudden it leaves the body because you've shown that light of awareness on it. And so you can be healed instantaneously. That's what back in biblical times they would call miracles. It's because they showed people the way to look at these issues they had, from an etheric, from an emotional perspective. And that's why people were healed, because energetically the body can heal itself instantaneously. But you do have to do the work for it, right? To uncover these subconscious behavior patterns.
Yeah, the default blueprint, the true essence, organically and naturally, is a coherent vessel of light that projects, yes, a physical, material existence, but we are emotional, mental, ethereal, spiritual beings. And it's so fascinating because I came from a background in healthcare. And the caduceus symbol of the medical, it's the medical symbol that's been around for thousands of years.
The two
It's this
snakes that are
the two
intertwined.
snakes, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
serpentine double helix and with wings on top. So we have this vertical staff, this is the symbol of health and wellness. And they're literally telling us to be healthy, to, live in full and ongoing health and longevity. We need to recognize that we're multidimensional beings where, our traumas exist in many levels. It's the double helix. And we're ascending. There's the wings there. And we can't be well in the body if we're not well in our emotions, because that informs our emotions, our thought forms inform the physical expression. The physical is a slower waveform. The emotions are faster, the thoughts are faster, and then our spiritual presence oscillates even faster. So it's like we come from the top down, and that's what the, snakes are representing. It's our multidimensionality. We must come into full coherence on all levels in order to be healthy, right? In order to experience coherence through the physical body. But the issue is that although that symbol is, everywhere in the medical arena, they don't really practice that because they don't see the spiritual presence in the body. They don't see the soul. So they're just treating physical symptoms. So that everything's quite disjointed. And there is an ascension that will happen through science, through medicine, through all aspects of our society. We're all awakening to that, knowing that we're not just physical beings. Right? And all ailments and afflictions and health issues have an energetic root. And that may come from our lifetime. It may come from our ancestral experiences, our ancestors' experiences, or it might even come intergalactically. So we are informed by so many streams of energy and experience. And as we are approaching that threshold and this illumination is happening of this current ascension, that's why a lot of us feel lots of different aches and pains, right? There's lesions of compressed energy that are asking to have spaciousness. They're asking to be released. Okay. And different things that may be coming up in terms of gut issues or different kind of chronic illnesses or skin conditions. All of that is just literally the breadcrumb trail to let us know, okay, there's a deeper energetic source here. And can we release that with love?
And it's so interesting because I just completed a week-long holistic healing and health series where each day we focused on a different piece of technology. And what was so fascinating about that is that every company that we focused on, that we featured, had a spiritual component to the work that they're doing and to the device that they offer. A lot of these devices, they're twofold. They help the body, but they help the spirit as well. And I just found that so fascinating. I think that's the future of medicine. We say frequency is the new medicine. And really what those devices are doing is they are offering, as you said earlier, offering the vibration. that you, if your body gets in resonance with that vibration, it will put itself into a healing state automatically. So if we can't do that through meditation or other ways that, we're having a hard time with doing that, these are things that can assist us. And I do think that that's where we're going with medicine. And I hope so, because I know you have a background, I believe, in pharmaceuticals. And not to say that that's all bad, but we're moving away from that. We realize that we don't need to apply these third dimensional solutions for health and wellness, that we can actually use our own bodies for healing these days. So it's fascinating that you just mentioned that right there.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And it's requiring a big shift across all levels. And I think when we're taking, I used to work at, I have a background of nursing. I used to work as a nurse, but that involved a lot of medications and pharmaceuticals. And I mean, when we're putting these artificial resonant frequencies into the body has to process that. And that's foreign. That doesn't come from our natural makeup. It's something that is architected and created synthetically, and it mimics. A lot of the times medications are just mimicking nature in a synthetic way. That's why naturopathy and other modalities of healing are often way more effective. So that is a toxic load for the body. So it's almost like there are cases when that's the only option, but there are so many other ways of healing, right? Getting back into coherence with yourself, getting back into nature. Right. But there are, because of these different devices and things that are coming out, again, it's reflecting the shift in consciousness. People are having these creative visions and, ways to create something new to offer humanity. And I think that that's going to have a massive impact in physics, in science, in all across the board. Right? The way that we've been measuring things, the way that we've been interpreting reality with the instrumentation that we have, no matter how modern it is, it's always going to be a reflection of the observer. So if we change within ourselves, we start to read the field and experience reality in such a more vast and complete way. And that's a miracle. We start to understand our miraculous nature. And I think, again, even with those different devices, they can greatly support someone who feels blocked, or like, they're not really able to access that energy within themselves. But over time, we will all realize that we hold all the organic technology within us that we could ever possibly need. But sometimes we just need that reflection to help sort of kickstart it. But everything's already within us.
Absolutely. And what's so great about that is it allows us to take responsibility as well. That's another piece, that if we didn't have the ability to heal ourselves, we would be at the effect of everything around us. But because we do have that ability, we can take responsibility for ourselves and we can heal ourselves in that way. So I love that. I think that is such a great point to make. And, we're moving into this, as we mentioned, ascension timeline. We're moving to the golden age right now. What do you think that looks like for the future? I know we're on a positive timeline, and that's what I'm manifesting for us. But what does that look like in terms of different aspects of the world? What do you see coming down the pipeline for, let's say, the financial sector? We just talked a little bit about health and healing, the food industry. I know there's some major changes that will be taking place and that will have to take place in these areas. What do you think about what that might look like for this new Earth ascension timeframe?
I believe that in terms of the undercurrent sort of underpinning structures of the framework or the architecture of reality, it's been very hierarchical. So we have a very small proportion of people that are really controlling all of these huge, massive systems on the planet. And so first and foremost, that is what has to change. We need to decentralize that power, because if we don't do that, we're going to consistently have the same outcomes, right? So we have to realize that the power has to be decentralized. We all have to realize as a collective species that we all have the power, and we all equally have the power. It's a shared knowing within us, and then start to collaborate in new and different ways. Okay, so it's like it's stopping that top-down control system, and instead having this like unified expression where we all harmonize with each other and start to take accountability, because it's easy to just say, okay, yeah, I'll just let these few families control the whole world, because it's just this comfort or familiarity of the system we've been born into, and we don't want to challenge it. Okay, but then we've been given this opportunity, this golden age. Why is it a golden age? Well, what is the frequency of gold? It's a high vibration. It's this golden timeline of our greatest becoming. So there are huge changes, and I see it, first of all, really coming back into union with the Earth Mother, who's hosting our experience in the physical plane. It's such a gift to be here and have this body, extensions of her. We have to come back into connection with her and stop polluting and degrading and disrespecting her as a humanity. So, and then when we come into that repair of that relationship with her and start to heal any separation illusions, we can start to come together with each other. And I just see, life being very sovereign, all of us working together, but recognizing our role, our impact, our legacy that we're creating, because we're all here, contributing to this expanding fabric. And that's going to then course through all of the channels of education, of the curriculum that we're taught in schools, right? So much of that is not really relative to our spiritual awakening. So, and we all see that now. We see that, okay, imagine if we got to be educated in a different way, with yogis or with quantum physicists or like artists or people who could teach us in all of these amazing out of the box ways. Our consciousness today would be so different. Right? So the education system, and of course the decentralized banking system, because money controls people. It controls their time and the life force that they put into jobs that potentially feel really distressing on a soul level and that are not fulfilling. But it's this, we've got to be the break in that chain and restore our energy and come back into our inner peace. And I feel like that's what the golden age is gifting us, this opportunity that we're all working together to this shared common vision that we feel within us. We know it. It's not even just a vision. We know it. And we came here for this time cycle. That's why the golden age is happening. There are so many factors that are making this a possibility now when it wasn't a possibility before. And is the very reason for our incarnation. A lot of us as light workers, we've heard that call, we've come here, and we're shifting in terms of our own consciousness so that we can help to lead other people as well, or inspire others. And these beings are the path cutters that are paving the way towards that golden timeline and all of our individual golden life paths, where we're living and working in our greatest passions, our innovation and creativity. And naturally, that's going to help us to be well because the energies are coherent. So we're going to have less sickness. We're going to have less pain and suffering. It's just about coming into harmony. I really feel that frequency of the golden age is all about harmonizing with our truth. And so I see it as a reality where there is no more deception, where there's this, we're living in truth once again. And that's our empowerment.
Absolutely. And that's how I see it as well. I think, as you mentioned earlier, we are very lucky to be here at this time. And we are very lucky to usher in this age. And I am excited for all of the changes that you just listed and, looking forward to what this new earth has to offer. So I just want to say thank you so much, Katrina, for this lovely conversation and for the wisdom that you shared. You are just wise beyond words. And I just appreciate what you are sharing with our audience. And I know that you have coaching courses that you offer on your website. Would you like to share where people can find you? And also, what would the final words that you'd like to share with anyone listening be for today?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been, such a joy to just speak and connect and share about all of these beautiful things on my heart. So thank you so much. And if anyone is feeling the resonance, my website is just my name, katrinasmith.me. So you can find everything that I offer there on the website. And in terms of a final message, I'm just going to take a breath. Yeah, so it's all about realizing that everything's already within you. It's coming through so strong. I think that we do get very swept up in a lot of concepts, a lot of offerings, the excitement of this new age upon us, and we can get very easily pulled out of our own inner knowing. And for me, that's fundamentally the most important thing, to confide in yourself, to look inward, to recognize your own divine consciousness that lives and breathes through you. There is and never will be anything that you need outside of yourself. And the moment that you realize that, it changes your life in the most beautiful and positive ways. But it does require us to reclaim that power and to let go of all those ways of which we've given our power away and playing it smaller than we need to. There's everything already here within us, and we are so divinely guided. We just need to turn our attention and focus inward and realize that we're God consciousness.
Well, you are speaking directly to my soul, and I know you're speaking to a lot of other people as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for this. We really appreciate your time and your energy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you for everyone listening.